Come on in. Let's have a talk. I want to expand on something I spoke about the other day very quickly. I think I've got about 20 minutes. And I just want to clarify some stuff, family. Because as you can see from the title, that is a phrase that has been thrown about for decades. The phrase that black people sold black people into slavery. And I, Sarah Garvey, want to give that some context. And kind of look at it and see what makes sense. Ultra funky, locked in, good. Now, it is said that black people sold black people into slavery. Normally, that is a phrase used by somebody trying to deflect a conversation from either European enslavement or Arab enslavement. Somebody trying to, it seems like a deflection tactic. But I want to kind of flesh it out and kind of look at it a little bit more. Now, there's no doubt that there were definitely Africans that helped Europeans during the transatlantic slave trade. There's no doubt that there were Africans that helped Arabs during the Arab-Muslim slave trade. So, what was the plan of Europe and what was the plan of Arabia? Now, normally this phrase is used to try and blame black people for their own Holocaust. And I spoke about Hitler the other day on one of Callum's shows, and they were talking about Hitler, and they were saying, Hitler was about the master race, right? However, Hitler had Muslim Arabs in his army. He also had other Jews in his army, right? I'm actually going to drop the link in the description to show that there were Jews in Hitler's army, at least 100,000 of them, okay? However, nobody says, yeah, well, Jews helped Hitler. No one says that. When you speak about the Holocaust, no one says, yeah, well, 100,000 Jews helped Hitler. No one says that. I think the reason why they say that is because they actually respect the Jewish Holocaust. What I've come to find is that people don't necessarily respect the African Holocaust, so they attempt to blame Africans, right, for their own Holocaust. No, you can't. No African, I'm just saying, whether it be the Arab slave trade or European, no African planned, plotted, orchestrated, schemed, built, wrote out blueprints for the enslavement of African people. However, on the European and Arab side, they both funded, planned, plotted, built, and implemented the slave trade. Africans didn't do that. Though there were Africans that helped, the African slave trade did not happen because the African helped Europeans. Europe had a plan. They wanted resources and they wanted free labor. Okay? The plan to get free labor and resources was to enslave people. People that have a plan understand that some people are going to work that plan regardless of how it happens. So, if Hitler had to use some Muslims, so be it. He had a master plan. If he needed to use 100,000 Jews, so be it. He had a master plan. America used Iraqis to enter Iraq, so be it. America also used people of the Afghanistan to enter Afghanistan. No one says, oh, you see, those Afghanistanis, man, they help the Americans. No one says, oh, you see those Iraqis, they help the Americans. No one says, oh, you see those Chinese, they help the British invade Hong Kong and China. No one says this. No one says, oh, look, the Jews helped Hitler. But people always say, yeah, well, Africans helped sell other Africans into slavery. Why? Why is that banded around as if it was Africans' fault? As if Africans were sitting on the west coast of Africa with a whole load of slaves, and they were like, guys, we've got no one to buy our slaves. Let's call up Britain, France, Spain, Portugal, let's phone up Holland, let's phone Germany, and let's see if they want to, buy some slaves off us. No, it didn't go like that, people. Africans did not orchestrate the slave trade. So I think we really need to be careful when we banned that, that term around. There was no humongous slave fort built by Africans, okay, for Europe to come and get some African slaves. It never happened that way. Yes, there were Africans that were involved in the selling of Africans to Europe. That cannot be denied. But to say, oh yeah, well, Africans helped sell Africans into slavery, yeah, it's a cop-out. It's actually trying to negate what the Arabs and the Europeans did. The first slave trade was done by the Arabs. It came in 642 AD, look it up, when they invaded Northern Africa. They came in, and they were the first to enslave black African people. With that slave trade, it opened up the door for the European slave trade, or what we now know as a transatlantic slave trade. This was a raid. Not a trade, it was a raid, okay? It was a raid for free labor and a raid for resources. So this was not the orchestration of African people upon their own continent. So can we please start looking at things in context, family? Because in times of war, you get traitors, okay, everywhere. Now, I'm sure Jewish people will see those 100,000 Jewish soldiers that worked for Hitler and say, look at those traitors. Look at those treacherous Jewish people. And I would say, if there were any Africans that helped Europeans, look at those treacherous African people. It doesn't mean that those Africans or those Jewish people are the reason for the enslavement. That's not what it means. It just means that the people who were orchestrating this thing actually got some dumbasses and got some people who were greedy and got some treacherous motherfuckers to help work with them. And that's what happens in war. I don't condone it, but we know that happens. There's always traitors in war, family. There's always traitors in a war, okay? So let's stop throwing that term around. Oh, Africans helped sell Africans into slavery. So what? That's what I say, so what? It doesn't mean the transatlantic slave trade lasted for 400 years. Are you telling me that for 400 years, yeah, Africans were just constantly selling slaves? Like, it's constantly at the slave market, selling slaves to Europeans for a price. Come on, people. And if there was that kind of trade going on, then we'd have to see how that happened. How did that happen? Where? Who got rich? You show me the riches that were brought with these slaves in Africa. I can show you how major banks and corporations were started with slavery in Europe. You can't show me Africa being rich because of slavery. That's not what happened, family. Okay, there were traitorous Africans, okay, who helped, but they were not the excuse. They are not the excuse to throw that around as if it was Africans' fault for slavery. It's not the Africans' fault. Europeans had a plan. If you got superior weaponry, okay, and you got a different kind of plan, and you roll up into a country with that plan and superior weaponry, 9 times out of 10, you're going to implement your plan. And you're probably going to get, who knows where the Africans are, except for Africans. Now think of it. This was pre-drones, okay? There were no drones, so we couldn't fly over Africa and say, oh, there's some, we'll get them. They had to get boots on the ground, get some Africans and say, listen, we want your peoples. Where are they? Where are they? So, they had to get the Africans to help. And some Africans did help. Some Africans warred with them. It was war. It was literally war. But listen, I don't buy this Africans sold Africans into slavery cop-out, though I know that Africans did help, but it wasn't their fault. So, yeah. Family, I've got about 10 minutes. Let's see the opinions of the chat. good to see you still about the people. Mind you don't catch the British culture virus, says Ezra. If there was an Islamic uprising to kill the white infidels, I'd join in a heartbeat to stay alive. Diddy Crefeld. It is terrible that if people of any colour would have been enslaved, I can't get my head around the mindset that could do this. Sarah Garvey, says Miss Southeast. Look at the corruption now by African governments that keep people in poverty. That's nothing to do with whitey. That's nothing to do with the conversation. I don't deny African leaders being corrupt, but that's got nothing to do with the conversation right now. You know, we don't want to divert from the conversation. It's called profiting. All people have been enslaved. Just ask the Irish and the poor English. Oh, and the African too. It doesn't make it right, but fix your own house first. Says I knew it. Maybe they were saving their skins, said Diddy Crefeld. Of course they were saving their skins. Do you know how many Africans converted to Islam just to save their friggin' family? Come on, how many of you, if an invading force came in and you knew they had superior weaponry, you'd probably be like, alright, cool, whatever you say, alright, fine, just don't kill me and my family. Loads of people would do that. Now, you'd still be a traitor to your people, but I'm not gonna act like I don't understand the psychology of being in war and saying, okay, cool, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Come on. A lot of people in this chat would probably do that right now. Don't lie to me, people. Slavery in any system in which principles property law are applied to people, allowing individuals to buy and sell. Okay. It was European Christians involved in the scramble for Africa, says Mohammed. Well, you know, Muslim Arabs have the top half of Africa, so I guess Muslim Arabs were also in the scramble for Africa prior to the European. Slavery started 700 years before Europe got to Africa. Correct, it was started by the Arab Muslims. We know this, and continues today. And this is what is very interesting to me, that black people even today are still being sold as slaves. Even today. Not in Europe, but in the Arab world. Still being sold as slaves. And then people want to talk about, oh yeah, the Africans helped sell Africa, and the Europe of this, and Europe of that, and the West this, and the West that. Let me tell you, the West has done a lot of shit and are still doing a lot of shit. But I tell you one thing, as a black person in Europe, I don't have to worry about being enslaved. I don't. And when I say enslaved, a lot of people like talk about, yeah, but what kind of slavery? Because there's economic slavery. I'm talking about somebody taking your ass off the fucking streets, okay? Putting you in shackles and putting you to work. That's what type of slavery I'm talking about. I don't have to worry about that. I'm in Africa and in Arabia. A lot of people in Africa and in Arabia have to worry about, you know, their asses being snatched off the street and being put in chains. Come on. Come on, guys. You know what I'm saying? And so I have to wonder about, like I said, I've always wondered about the black Muslim. I've always wondered about the African Muslim and why this is not something that they choose to deal with in their head. Always. Now we can choose to deal with, we can talk about racism in Europe, white supremacy, economic sanctions via Europe on Africa, unfair trade. We can talk about all of that. Okay, and that is all relevant. It's all relevant. But I do not have to worry about my people being snatched off the street and put to work. And there are places still within the Arab world and in Northern Africa where that is actually okay. And I'm just saying it's 2018 and that's not okay. That's not okay. It's happening in Libya. It's happening in Saudi. There's a woman in Kuwait the other day who actually jumped off a 7-story building to avoid her master, but she was just a domestic worker, as they said. This ain't no domestic work, man. This is slavery. Okay, and it's still going on. But all of a sudden, there's no racism in Islam, and we are brothers and sisters, and all this kind of stuff. You know, I don't buy it. But I suppose you're going to say, oh yeah, well, Africans helped the Arabs too. Yes, they did. And they continue to. They continue to help Arab people. Okay, enslave other black people. One of the, I haven't even got time, but one of the very sly things that the mixed Arab does, the mixed African Arab does, is act like they're your brother Yeah, because we're the same color, and sell your ass to the Arab master. Okay, I'm telling you, the as they like to call the Bantu African, right, is a lot of the time being misled by that mixed Arab, that mixed Bantu that's got Bantu blood, quote unquote Bantu, and Arab blood, and they play a little game like, yeah, I'm your brother, I'm your brother, I'm your brother, and nah, they're not, because they see themselves as superior to you because they have that Arab blood in them. Remember that, family. Remember that. So yeah, we need to back to the topic anyway. We need to really think about when we throw that term around, sold Africans into slavery. Sarah Garvey, do you consider French Montana black? No, I don't consider French Montana black at all. Sad we're still talking about these horrors in 2018. It is sad. It is sad we're still talking about slavery in 2018 because it's still going on. If it wasn't going on, we wouldn't have to speak about it, but it's still going on. A lot of black people still being enslaved. Greetings from Malaysia, my Malaysian peoples. Thanks a lot, Sarah. These Arabs and others now enslave blacks mentally through religion. Yeah, well, we know. I mean, a lot of black people who are, in the Muslim faith will just not even look at me as a brother because, But I said, I already know the clan. I already know my clan up here, and if you're separating yourself from me based on your religion, so be it. Remember, I don't separate myself from anyone. People separate themselves from me. Just remember that. So it's not coming from my side. I'm not calling people kafir. I don't have derogatory names for anyone. I'm not saying this person is less than me or any of that type of stuff. That's not coming from me. It's coming from other people. So you understand that they're the ones dividing themselves from moi. Is French Montana permissible to say the N-word? Not in my book, no. Not in my book. But hey, the African American experience is a different one, and we can probably go into that on a different time. What we say just made me think of England when shipping started. Some would get their crew from kidnapping men, drunk, shipped to work for years. Exactly. Get put to work, get snatched up and put to work. Global supremacy is an issue of today. As far as I know, Africans took slaves as part of war, took the land, Europeans, others bought them and profited. That's how it started, Colin. You see, but the conservative estimate for the slave trade of Europe is 80 million. Now, there's not enough war going on in Africa for them to have 80 million people to sell. You know what I'm saying? Like, war is war, don't get me wrong, but to have 80 million people to sell over a 400-year period, no. Okay, that was a raid. That wasn't any trade going on. They were raiding those places to get that many people. Okay, it wasn't really a trade. It may have started off as a trade that, yeah, I got some guys that I bought from war, guys. Do you want to buy them? Yeah, fantastic. Go ahead. You come back and you're like, yo, we need more. And I'm like, yo, I haven't got no more. I haven't got any more. What do you mean more? I haven't got any. Yeah, well, we want more. We want more. And if you ain't got no more, we'll get you. The fuck? What do you mean me? Yeah, we'll take you. We don't care. We don't care which one we have. We just want some. And then the shit starts. Max could be 10 million. No. This is over a 400-year period, man. 10 million. I mean, the Arab slave trade is estimated at, I think, what was the last estimate? So about 20 million now. The Arabs like to castrate the black guys. So they wouldn't allow them to breed. Whereas in Europe and America, black men were allowed to breed. They had breeding farms for black men in America. They just get the biggest, blackest slave and a most rotund woman and say, breed, go. Whereas in the Arab world, they castrated the men so they couldn't breed because they were scared of they were actually scared of contaminating the gene pool, if you want to put it like that. didn't want to contaminate that gene pool. But you know, you can see that a lot of the Arab slave masters use the women in their harems and, you know, use them for sex and all this kind of stuff. But hey, that's history, right? It's not today. Oh, hang on, it is. Said I want to be in Nigeria, bro. I'm not coming to Nigeria at the moment. I am so jealous. Right, family, that was a quick one. I've actually got to run, if I'm honest with you. Thank you for tuning in. Just wanted to get that little piece of information out. Let's start thinking about when we say, oh, Africans sold Africans into slavery, because we've got to put some context to that. There will always be traitors in war, and the traitors are not to blame for the war. Okay? All right then, family. William Wilberforce ended slavery. Look him up. Oluda Equiano. Look him up. There's some research for ya. Oluda Equiano. Look him up and see who ended slavery in Great Britain. Peace, family. Peace.